This is R for Madness here in the shop a little early, getting ready to get another video out to all you guys that subscribe and like our videos. Thank you for that very much. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're going to be installing our MAXFlow induction package. And what that includes is it includes a SILA Turbo Blanket, which I have here in all three colors. We have red, we have black, and we have titanium. We do have dedicated videos for all this, so if you want a little bit more insight on exactly all the pros and cons, it'll be recapped, but just should you need that, links are, I'm sure, down in the description, so go ahead and check those out, please. Next, we're gonna have our MAXFlow intake with the BMC carbon canister here. We're gonna show you how to get that guy installed. And then lastly, the nice cherry on top, the finishing touch, the thing that when you open that engine bay is gonna be that nice little gem in the center, is gonna be our Madness engine cover that we have here. Simple 2-bolt installation. I don't know if you can see that contrasting with my shirt. We do offer custom colors, custom finishes with this as well. Some people have asked, so that is an option. It just takes a little bit longer to get them done. We're gonna go outside, we're gonna get started. Alright everyone, so here it is in all of its glory, a fairly stock engine bay. So the first thing that we have to do is disassemble and remove everything from the car. And what that's going to call for is removing of our factory engine cover and induction tubing, our tubing here, as well as loosening of the bracket that holds the manifold steady to the top of the valve cover. And we're just going to get everything out of the way so we have room to work and we have a nice layout for all of our parts. We need to make sure that we get everything nice and cool. This car's been sitting and it actually hasn't been driven this morning, so we're ready to work on it now. And I'm going to start disassembling everything. We'll go step by step. We'll get everything ready so that we can install our performance parts. Alright, so we're going to do a real quick overview of the teardown for the engine cover so that we can get to the base that we need to in order to start our modifications. What we're going to have to do is loosen the hose clamps on this pipe here that retain the pipe to the turbo, which is right down below, and the pipe to the outlet side of the airbox. It's just a flathead or an 8mm, so you're going to loosen those. The next connections you have are right up here. You have a vacuum hose and a 3/8 push to lock fitting. There's a clamp on this vacuum hose that we've removed. You just use a pair of pliers to collapse the clamp and you can slide this guy off. And on the push to lock fitting, there's a nice gray or white little connector that you can squeeze in on and slide the fitting back so that it's removed. With that, you can actually remove this pipe from the assembly, off the turbo and off the airbox, and take it out of the way. The next thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to come down here, so follow me, and you're going to remove this little 8mm bolt that connects the accordion tubing from the radiator core support to the actual inlet on the airbox. The next thing that you're going to do is the evacuation hose for the crankcase system has a little push to lock fitting that you're going to release by using your nylon pry tool, or in this case I can just pull up because I've already loosened it from the system here, and then you're going to pull and release it there so that it separates it from the airbox assembly itself. And with that, you're basically ready to pull up and remove the airbox. It's held in place by a couple of ball and socket fittings, so you can actually see, even though everything's still loosely connected, I can just pull up on it and it'll come pretty well loose. So after all this has been disconnected, you have your airbox out of the car and you're ready to gain access to any of the fittings and areas below so that we can install the performance parts on the car. Okay, so now that we have the air box removed, the next step in installing our turbo blanket is going to be getting rid of, or removing for the time being, the bracket that holds the manifold to the valve cover. So you can see it's a triangular bracket here. The first or the second step essentially is we put some penetrating oil on this guy, so it's going to be easier to remove, and we're to that point now. And then we have two other fasteners, all of which are 13mm. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to crack these loose. We're going to get this out of the way, and then we're going to move on to the next step. So now we have the bracket off of the car, and we're going to proceed to the next step, which is going to be to remove this aluminized shield that we have here. Okay, so the next step in installing the SILA Concepts Thermal Blanket is to remove the aluminized heat shield here that is actually the shield that is meant to suppress the heat coming off of the manifold. And if you see, it's actually kind of funny. There's a little hand with an X through it that says don't touch. Now we're able to touch it because it's nice and cool, but under most circumstances it gets so hot you can't touch that at all. In order to remove this, it's held in with 5 fasteners, 3 10mm nuts that are here on the top leading edge, and then right down here where the shield crests over down towards the radiator core support, there's 2 studs that have 10mm bolts as well. Now I've already removed those because you can't see them, and there's no camera angle that we're going to get to remove them. But if you have a ratcheting 10mm or a 10mm open end wrench, that's going to be your best bet at removing those guys the quickest, just because it's thin, it's going to fit in there, and the ratcheting action is going to allow you to just kind of get it on and off without having to reposition the wrench every single time you make a quarter or half turn. So we've loosened these guys here. These 2 have already been removed, as I stated previously. I'm going to get these out, and then the shield itself will come right out. So now that we have that off, slide it off the studs. What we're going to do now, and as you can see if you come down with me here, is you're going to see this is actually your factory catted downpipe, and then here's your turbo. So this is where a lot of the heat's emanating from. These guys spin at a really high RPM, and it just creates a lot of heat. So we're going to wrap the blanket around this and encapsulate the heat over this area here, and I'll show you what we're able to do with it once we start driving it. Alright, so now that we have everything torn down, we're ready to get the turbo blanket installed. So one thing to keep in mind, these turbo blankets will fit anything from 2012 to the present. We're going to pan down to the engine bay, we're going to place the blanket, we'll line everything up, start putting our fasteners in. So we're just going to slide the face of the blanket. Now the nice thing about it is the SILA Concepts logo gives you a nice little clue on the orientation of the blanket, because you can see that you're not going to have this upside down or some other way. You're going to be able to read it when you open up the engine of the car. And the other nice thing is you have this big ring here that is going to go over the main stud, the one that we put the penetrating oil and lubricant on when we remove the triangular bracket. So that's how you line everything up. And if you'll look, if you follow me here, you're going to see that these rings are starting to line up with the fasteners for the other blankets. So as we start tightening everything down, we're just going to move this in place so that everything lines up, and we're going to start replacing our fasteners. Alright, so we have the blanket in, it's been secured. The next step is going to be to put the triangle bracket in, but I want to show you how the blanket's been secured so that you can see the fasteners, the locations, and they're nice and tight. So if you come down here with me, you'll see that we have the 3 top 10mm fasteners in place up here. And then we'll try and show you, but down here there's a nice little stud, and then there's another one on the other side, but that one's actually further recessed, so you can't see that at all. So if you pan up with me a little bit, the next step is going to be to reinstall the bracket, which has the pickup point right here, right there, and right here on the main stud. So I'm going to grab the bracket, we're going to put it in place, and then we'll start securing that to the valve cover and then to the turbo itself. So we're going to put it in place and slide it over the stud, just like that. Position our holes. So now that we have this back on, I'm going to go ahead and get the 3/8 ratchet and just snug these up. They don't need to be over tightened. I usually get them where they bottom out, and then I do another quarter turn, which is more than sufficient to hold this there. One of the first things we're going to do is we need to remove and replace a bolt on the passenger side crash sensor. And the reason we're going to do that is because our 90 boot that leads from the turbo and goes into our passenger side pipe to go to the BMC canister is in the same space, or occupies the same space. And with the engine movement, if we left that hex bolt there, the end of the bolt would actually dig into the silicone boot and wear away at it a little bit. Wouldn't wear through it, but it's just, why even do that? So we give you a bolt. It's actually a stainless steel M6. That's a common thread with a lot of the fasteners on the engine, M6 thread, that will replace it. And because it has that rounded top head, even if the intake was to rest or lean against it, it wouldn't chafe through it because there's no hard edges for it to do so. So if you come with me to the engine bay, you're going to see it is a 10mm bolt. It is right here. It has, let's see, what is that? It has Torx. It looks like a T30 on the inside, but it's also a 10mm. So I've already loosened it, and I'm going to remove that, and then I'm going to replace it. Now when you do this, please make sure that you disconnect the negative battery cable, just for safety purposes. And we're out. So now let that hang for a sec. And we're going to replace it with our stainless steel hardware here. Get it through. Just like that. And look, we even went so long that we made sure it was the same length. Start that. Get it in place. Go. The screwdriver and just snug it up. Just like that. And that's a good step in the right direction to make sure we can start, because our 90 boot is going to come and occupy this space, and then our tubing is going to duct over here to the back side of the firewall. Alright, so now that we're starting, we're actually going to start dealing with our piping. And it's really, really important when we're doing this that we have a couple of things. That we sufficiently lubricate the insides of the silicone boots and the pipes, and also that we leave things loose until we get to a certain point where we can tighten them down. And what we do here is we do them in sections. So as you can see here, and I'll hold it, this is the smallest boot that is 2 inches in diameter, in ID, connects to the turbo itself. Then we go to 2.5 here. The piping enlarges to 2.5. Then this boot here is also 2.5, obviously, because the pipe's in half. And then it goes larger to 2 3/4. Well, so what's important is everywhere that we have a boot sliding onto the pipe, we have proper lubrication. And the reason that that's important is because we're going to need to be fidgeting and moving and twisting and seating everything to the right area. And if we try to do that with it dry, it just would, you'd be fighting yourself to try and do it. So what we always recommend is to use some sort of silicone lubricant when you install these. If you don't have that, you can get them at any local auto parts store. It's not expensive at all. You can get the smaller packages that they have on those little racks. Enough to do these, you need very little, but that's going to save you a lot of time in the long run. So I've already gone and done this. All the edges of the pipe here that have a silicone connector on them are bead rolled, and what that means is this pipe is 2.5 inches in outer diameter, and we roll the ends so that when you slide the boot over and you tighten the clamp actually has something to tighten against, because the edge that is bead rolled is a little bit larger in diameter than the 2.5 inches. So once you get this seated and once you slide it over and it's lubricated, you can tighten the clamp down so that it will not come off of the end of the pipe, but it's still loose enough to where you can slide it on the pipe itself, so that you can make your adjustments and you don't have to worry about the boot actually falling off because it's lubricated, because it's gonna squeeze off. So we've done that to this pipe already. Everything's lubricated, ready to go, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and install it on the turbo side here, and then we're gonna tighten everything down with our mounting brackets so that we can go and get the canister installed. So if you follow me to the engine, you can see that we have everything removed now, and it's ready to go. What you're gonna do here is you're just gonna slide this piece over onto the turbo inlet there, and then you're going to line up our actual end of the pipe, the slotted portion, with the bolt that's on the fill neck. So before I actually seat this in place, that's the bolt right there. I'm going to remove that. It's already loose, and we'll be able to seat it properly. So let me put this down and get my 10 mil. Is loose, and this bolt's going to be replaced with a longer bolt from the kit that you are provided. It's M6 as well is the thread, so just lift that off. Now, one thing that's very, very important that I'm going to ask that we get on camera. So if you come down here, you're going to see what that bolt, its job is to hold the actual this toothed piece to the valve cover that holds the fill neck for the engine oil in place. So make sure that when you remove that bolt that you have this piece correctly installed on the fill neck so that it lines up, because if you forget to install it, if it's out, if it's not in place, this can actually come off and you can leak some engine oil out of here, or it can fall down. You might not be able to find it, so just make sure. You see how easy that comes off. There's nothing holding it in place but that bolt. So you seat it in place properly, just like that. And what we're going to end up doing is putting our pipe in place. So we're going to fish this down. Oh, one thing that I did forget to mention that I would like to point out. On certain years, this little guy, this coolant hose that goes to the turbo, does play a little bit of a factor, and it gets in the way a little bit from this pipe seating all the way down. They had a different placement on the actual cover here. So what you can do is you can remove the fastener that holds it in place, and when you do that, this pipe can move a little bit, and it's just a very little bit. So you just move it up out of the way, and that will give you enough clearance for everything to route in place. And it's a hard line here, so everything is secure, and you're actually probably moving it about 1/4 of an inch, so it's not very much at all, and it will just stay in place because it's a hard line. If you wanted to, you could drill a little hole and put another fastener in there, but it's not required. It's going to stay in place. You're going to have the pipe over it. You're going to have all these other fasteners that go in line with it, so just kind of move it out of the way just a smidge, and that'll give you the clearance you need to run the pipe. This car already had an intake on it when we started, so it had this moved previously, but I just wanted to mention that. So now we'll start, and we're going to slide our hose clamp over. Make sure that the hose clamp is facing so that the actual fastener is on the radiator core support side, the front side of the car. If it's not, you're not going to be able to tighten it if it's over here. There's not enough room, so just you can keep it on top like that. So just make sure that when you rotate it down, it's facing up and it's on the front side of the car, just like that, and you'll be fine. I'm going to fish this down in place. And because it's well lubricated, you're going to see it'll slide right on with just a little bit of help. We have everything out of the way. We have everything loose. And you can see it lines up pretty well. But what you're going to be able to do is these boots will slide on this pipe liberally because they're well lubricated. So when you put this in, if the pipe's not lining up with your mounting bracket here for where that bolt was on the fill neck or things like that, since the pipes are lubricated and the clamps are in place, you can just slide the pipe down, slide it up, move it in, move it out, and it'll seat itself rather well because you have the ability to adjust it. And you can also see that our connections here are right in line. So we have our push-to-lock 3/8 guy here that is ready to go in place. See, like that. We have this one. Now I'm not going to fully secure them because I want to bolt that in first and get everything here tight, but the key to any of this being a lot easier is to just make sure that this is well lubricated so that you can make those finite adjustments that you're going to need. So here is the bolt, the M6 bolt that we have, that is gonna, the little bit longer one that we were going to replace here. We'll drop it down, and you can see it lines up rather well with the intake itself. We'll just hand start it. And what I find works best for us is that this slotted hole here, that you push the connector so it slides all the way as far as it can to the driver's side of the car. That's usually what gives me the easiest install, and we can tighten that down. And now what I'm gonna do is, it looks like everything's fitting really well. The nice telltale for me is these two connections here, because you can see that if these line up with minimal movement of the pipe, that's a tell. That's something that's gonna give you a guideline of, okay, this is in the right general area. You still may need to move it a little bit, but it's in the right general area. And then when this lines up, the boots and everything else can be adjusted independently of that. But for the most part, if you're lining up here, you're good. Everything's where it needs to be. So now that we have that we know that we're in the right space, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna tighten this down, and then we're gonna get ready for the carbon canister up here. So I'm gonna start by just sliding these in like that. That one's in place. I'm gonna tighten this down, then I'm gonna tighten at the turbo, and we're ready to go. So we have our 8mm. I have the electric impact. It's a little bit of a help here for speeding things up. Get it on there, and again, we're just going for snug. You don't need to over tighten it. Just like the bead rolled ends of the pipe, the actual turbo inlet is bead rolled as well, so it'll tighten down over that. Give it a couple tight there. Now, since this is all good here too, I'm just gonna hit these and let them tighten up a little bit. Good. This one, again, if you can hide any of your clamps, that's always nice. We leave these out in the videos a lot of times just so that you can see where we're tightening them. But if you can ever hide them, it's always just a lot cleaner of an install. So some of these you'll see are gonna have to be exposed just so you can see us work. But we always try and flip them to a side where they are hidden. All right, so I'm gonna tighten down this hose clamp down here. Just a smidge. There it is. And then next, I'm going to tighten down the 10mm that holds the pipe in place. So slide that. There it is. So now what we've been able to do is we secured and we've tightened and we've finished and final tightened everything with the exception of the 2 3/4 inch connector up here that holds the canister. So this is all done. You have this whole section in the right spot, as you can tell by your various markers of the vacuum and the 3/8 push to connect. You also have here in the correct place, you have clearance with everything underneath, everything fits, everything's nice and secure. So you have a good base to start building the rest of the intake off of. Next, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get the carbon canister ready. We're gonna talk a little bit about that and how to install it. We're gonna get this connection, and before you know it, we're gonna be on the other side of the car getting everything wrapped up. Okay, so we come to the filter, and just a little background on the filter itself. BMC is an Italian manufacturer for high-end air filters for all makes and models of vehicles. We have a full extensive catalog that we offer for them that you can check out on Madness Autoworks. But in doing so and building our partnership, we came to them and we said, hey, there's this car that we love, that we have, that we drive, that we want to do something with. It's the Abarth, and they knew of it, obviously. And so together we collaborated and said, hey, we'll come to the table and we'll build the actual piping that will work for the car, because the US spec is different than the T-Jet motor, and this is what we're able to come up with. So they provided the filter that was rated and sized perfectly for the displacement of the car, and we came up with the piping that we're installing now, and that's how this all came about. But the beauty of this filter is the quality of the actual cotton used, of the oil that they use. It's actually food grade safe. It can be consumed. Now, you don't drink the oil, don't cook with it, nothing like that. But it's just a very, very high quality product. The filter is labeled, so if you look at the end caps of the filter, you'll see one that says engine side, which is here, and then you see another that says inlet side. So in this case, inlet side, engine side. So if we look at the car, we can tell that the air comes in on the driver's side, it ducts through the core support into the filter here on the inlet side, and then it leaves on the engine side and goes over to the turbo. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to just look at those ends, and the nice thing too is you have the nice BMC logo that's on the face of the filter itself to let you know which side is up. If you don't want to show anything off, if you want to turn it around the other way, you can do that too. No logo on the back. But we like to show it off because it's a very, very good brand and we're really proud to offer it. So what I'm going to do now is, here's my inlet side, here's my engine side. We're going to place it in the car. So now that we have the driver's side pipe in, everything's been secured, we know everything's set up right and it's tightened down, we're good here. The only thing that we haven't tightened down is this 2 3/4 inch boot over here, because there's nothing installed on it. So now all I'm going to do, again, this is all siliconed and lubed up. I'm going to slide it in, and it's pretty straightforward. So you just slide it in, work it around, get it in place, bottom it out on the boot. Now, the one thing that you're going to have to finagle with as you go is the gapping on the boots and whatnot, and you're going to see that these want to come out because you have them lubricated well, so they're not going to just sit in there and come out, because the opening on the boot is just a smidge smaller than the diameter of the actual tube itself, so you have that nice suction, but it's also because you lubed it, it's going to kick it out a little bit. So now that we have it in place, all we have to do is use our 8mm, our flathead, our nut driver, whatever you have at your disposal, to tighten it down. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down so you can see it, just for demonstration purposes, but normally what we do is two things. I'm either going to clock this underneath down here so you can see it, that it has the clamp, but you can't see the actual fitting. But because you won't be able to see that at home, I have to actually leave it up on this side for right now. So normally, remember, flip it around, get it so that you can hide your fittings, because that's what makes for a nice clean install. But for our purposes here, so you can see what we're doing, I'm just going to keep the clamp up on this side. So now, what do we have? We have our driver's side pipe in, or excuse me, our passenger side pipe in. What do we have? We have our passenger side pipe in. We have our 90 boot, 2 1/2 to 2 3/4. We have that secured in place. We have our filter in place. Next step is going to be installing the actual 2 3/4 inch 90 to 2 1/2 to the driver's side pipe, and we'll get to that right now. Okay, so now we're onto the driver's side pipe that goes to the inlet of the BMC canister. So remember before when we talked about making sure that we use some type of lubricant on the inside of each of the silicone boots and on the ends of the pipes, except for this end. This end, you'll see why in the next step, but this end does not require any lubrication. So this is where the adding of the lubrication to the silicone boots, and I recommend, and highly recommend, some type of grease that will stay viscous for a little while, because there's a little bit of tweaking and adjusting. So as you see, it's taking us a minute to get to this point. If you put something like dish soap or something that's going to evaporate or dry on a hotter day, kind of like today, by the time you get to the latter portions, it was all good when you put it together and you had it ready to install, but by the time you actually got to the point of adjusting everything towards the end, it might have dried. So you might not have the ability, or it might not be as easy. So we use something that's a silicone-based lubricant that stays viscous for a little while until you give it some heat, then it'll dissipate. And since the car isn't running until after everything's been installed, it works very well for ourselves. So now that we have everything lubricated and together on this piece like we have on the others, we're going to follow the same thing. We're just going to get everything nice and dry fit and in place and kind of snug, so that we can do our final fitment towards the latter portions of the installation. And then we'll go piece by piece. We have the driver's side done, we have the canister installed, so now we're here. We're at our 2 3/4 inch inlet, because this is actually the inlet side of the filter before it goes to the turbo, and we're going to attach the 2 3/4 side of the 90 boot. Now before I put this in place, I'm going to show you where we're going to actually use our pickup points, our attachment points here and here. You're going to use this bolt right here that's holding the ground strap just above the coil, and we're going to loosen that. Now you can leave that in, because it has enough thread to where you can leave it secured in place. We just got to loosen it. As you can see, this guy, he's loose right here. So that one's loose. And then the second one we're going to use is one of the bolts that holds the factory heat shield. Now that we have everything ready to go in, we have this loose, we're going to remove this one. I've already done that. If you have a blanket installed, and when you buy this intake, we are going to give you a longer bolt, because it makes installing that bolt that the blanket shares, or that the factory heat shield shares, much easier. So we have the bolt here, but if you ever order this intake, you will get that extra bolt, and you're going to say like, hey, where does that bolt go? Well, hopefully you saw the video, but that's where that longer bolt goes. It's an M6 size bolt. So now that we have that, we have everything loose, we know where things are going, all we're going to do is we're going to slide the bracket higher, closer to the firewall, up under this loosen the bolt here, and we're going to slide the 2 3/4 ends onto the filter here so that we can get it seated just like that. We're going to swing the filter down. We're going to push it in place, and you can see it's actually a really good fitment. There's no tension on any of the clamps at all. Everything's lining up here. It's slid under there, and this is where the tweaking comes in. So we're going to tighten things down a little bit, just like we did before, and we're going to start to fit it little by little, just to make sure that everything fits, no kinks, no extra tension, things like that. So now that we have that, the 2 bolts here that are holding the brackets down are both 10 mil, and then we have the 8 mil that holds our hose clamps down. So what I want to do is I want to snug up and get these 2 started that are holding the brackets, so we have everything in alignment. And here's that longer bolt. There we go. Now we're cooking. So we get that started, and basically you see how easy it tightens down because it's going into the nutsert. So you just want to make sure that's there. You're going to keep it loose, just like you're going to keep the other things loose. So there, everything's still loose. So you can see we have loose play here. We have loose play here, so we can move everything around if we need to. And that's the key, is that we have everything over here tight, so we know this is all good. So now all we have to do is get everything situated, get our clamps tight, and we know it's all going to line up right. So what I want to do here is I want to adjust my hose clamp just like that. Tightened it, so we have nice gapping here, and it's secure. So let me tighten it on the bottom. I always try and hide these as best we can too, so if we can tighten it on the bottom over here where you're not going to see the end of the hose clamp. Sometimes that's not always possible, but to do your best to hide ridges and things like that, it's always nice. So let me tighten this down. Okay, have that secured. And then what we're going to do is tighten this one. Did the same thing here, hid this guy down below, and since we have it snug enough to where it's just on the other side of the bead roll, it's nice because it's not going to move off of that. It's not going to slide off and pull the clamp off, because the bead roll is a little bit bigger in diameter than the actual size of the tubing, so that this can move. We have adjustment here because it's lubricated and this clamp isn't tight, but at the same time it's not so loose as to allow the boot to come off. So now I have room here. Now that we have that snug and in place, all I'm going to do is run down the 2 10 millimeters that are going to hold the 90 brackets in place. And it doesn't need to be super tight, it just needs to be enough to where it's going to keep everything in line. And there you have the driver's side pipe installed. So next we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish off ducting this pipe here up to the core support, and then we'll move next to the breather filter install. This oval opening here slides into an opening on the back side of the core support, and there's no graceful way to get it in there other than just kind of moving it around till it finds its home. So you'll be able to see in there, you get it in. And I think everybody can tell where I'm going with this. You're going to slide the male end over the female end of the Madness BMC piping here, and you're going to secure it with a hose clamp. We're going to go ahead, and before we put the hose clamp on, we're going to re-cinch down this little 8 millimeter to secure the ducting to the core support. Okay, and since it's an 8 millimeter, we know that it'll also fit our hose clamp. There it is. And that is it. So that's one of the final steps. Next we're going to move on to our breather filter here. Alright, so the last step in finishing off our Madden BMC carbon canister, we have a small little guy that comes included. It's our breather filter, and what this does is it goes in and installs on the crankcase breather that's on the driver's side of the motor. So if you pan over with me, we're going to go right here. So this used to have a factory tube that ducted into the intake itself and vented the crankcase gases in through the intake to be reintroduced into the engine. Now I wanted to take a moment to describe the reason why we decided to go this route with the breather filter, and I think it's very important. The reason that we decided to do that is because what can happen over time, over thousands and thousands of miles, is the crankcase pressures and the gases that get vented back into your intake tract again to be reburned. What happens is the gas is a vapor that's getting vented back through your intake. As it gets vented and it builds up, it's warm, it's very warm. And when it goes back into the intake ducting, it condenses back down because the charge of air going into your intake isn't as warm as those gases. And over those thousands and thousands of miles, they will condense and it ends up coating the inside of your intake and the upper end of your engine. And the reason that we decided to go this route is specifically because we did not want those that sludge and contaminant to build up over time. Is it going to kill your motor? Is it going to do anything like that? No. But if there's one extra thing that we could do to eliminate another cause of sludge and debris and buildup on the inside and upper end of the motor and your intake ducting and all that good stuff, we felt it was very, very simple to do, and that's why we include this filter. So it's a cleanable filter that is oiled that we will just slide over the end of that, the little nipple that's on the breather, and we'll tighten it down with a hose clamp here, and it'll be secure. Now, when you do your regular oil changes, check your oil once a month, things like that, you can take it off, you can get a little can of brake clean, clean it off, and put it back, because you'll see that when you have this installed, you're going to get sludge buildup on the end of this filter, on the media. That same sludge that's building up on the outside of that of this filter would be the same that would be getting ducted back into your intake tubing, and we don't want that. We don't want to dirty the filter, we don't want to dirty the pipes, we don't want to reintroduce it. So we're going to install this now. So all you do, it's really simple, is it just slides right on. So you get it, you slide it on. I always like to orientate the hose clamp so that it is facing in, and just so you don't see it on this outside. Then you get your flathead screwdriver, you tighten it down, again snug, you don't have to over torque on this thing, just to where you feel it bite. And the nice thing is, because you're tightening up against something that's cushioning the clamp behind, it doesn't slide on you, it doesn't move too much. There you go, snug. And that's it. So you're wrapped on your Madness BMC intake. So take a look at that. Take a look at the fit and the finish. Take a look at how beautifully it trims the engine bay. We have the red piping. We do offer it in the black wrinkle finish. And it's perfect. It uses the factory ducting here from the radiator core support to take the air up into the tubing through the BMC carbon fiber filter. This again can be re-oiled, so you can buy the BMC cleaning kit. It's an option when you're checking out. Make sure you get that. You simply disassemble this. It's 4 screws on either side of the canister, and the filter slides right out. You clean it, you re-oil it, you reinstall it into the canister, replace these 4 screws on each side, and then you reinstall it. So then it ducts through the filter, comes here, and goes into the turbo. So everything push to lock connection, vacuum connections, 90 boots, the crankcase breather filter. We try to think of everything to make it a very, very clean, efficient install, and there's going to be more. Alright, so you've done our Madness BMC carbon canister. It's in there. It runs great. It looks great. But there's something missing, right? What'd you have to do when you removed it? You had to take out the engine cover. And as bulky and cumbersome and not performance oriented as that engine cover was, there was one thing that it was that is a little bit missing. It was nice looking and finished off the top of the motor. So you have the performance, you have those nice powder coated pipes, you have the beautiful carbon fiber filter, but there's something missing. What is that? I'll tell you what that is. That's the engine cover. So you have our Madness Autoworks BMC carbon canister engine cover. So as you can see, made out of aluminum, powder coated wrinkle black finish. Special finishes are available by request, so make sure that you call Madness Autoworks, give us an email, just reach out to one of our guys, we'll get you taken care of. If you have this is just a 2-bolt installation. It's just really going to beautify that engine bay, dress it up, and be that little extra piece that ties everything together. So the first step that we go when we install it is we need to remove the oil cap here. So I'm going to go ahead and just unscrew it, place it off to the side, and the next step is going to be to just rest the engine cover in place. Now, there is one stud here that if you have it installed on your valve cover, you're going to need to remove. The other stud that we install is right over here, if you follow me, right by this coil pack. This one is already empty. So these are the 2 studs that use the hardware for the engine cover, the stainless steel Allen nuts that are going to finish off and dress up the top of the cover. So now that we have everything removed, we're ready to place the cover in place, and we will do that now. So you can see it just slides in place, and then now what you're going to do is you're going to need an Allen, little Allen key, and I get started seating them. Now because they're the same length bolts, you just want to make sure that they seat, and you want to get one in, and you can tell when they're in, they have a little bite to them. And then all you're going to do is seat the other one, and you're going to tighten them down evenly. Now you're probably wondering, how do I make sure that it's even? How do I make sure that it's going to stay in place exactly where I need it to when it's going to stop? Well, we've thought of that for you. So we give you a nice nylon tubing that goes along the threaded studs to seat, and when that bottoms out, since it's nylon, it has a little give, so you can tighten it just a little extra from when it bottoms out to make sure everything's seated securely. And it gives you a little flex too, so if you want to space and move things a little bit and make sure that your gapping is even on all your piping and on the carbon canister left and right, you can do that, and it's malleable, so it's not something hard like aluminum or stainless or things like that that's going to be hard to shape and fit, because there's always a little movement. And if you've installed this intake, you know there's a lot of moving pieces, so we want to make sure that we have the adjustability. That's key. So you're just going to tighten them down a little at a time. And it really is that simple. And you'll feel when it bottoms out, you'll get a little resistance. And you just keep tightening them until you feel that. And then as you go, so if you see that your gap's a little even, you have a little play where you can move these guys around. But our gaps are pretty even here, around our dipstick, around the top of the BMC canister, and around the pipe here. So we're nice and clean with our install. So we're just gonna keep tightening these guys. It's one of those things that's nice on a day where you can come out and be a little patient and just do a little finish install. So you're going to keep tightening. And the hardware and fasteners, the plate itself is aluminum, the fastener is stainless steel, so you don't have to worry about any rusting or any, because you will see some water in the engine bay, moisture at least, if not water. And you see, once you get it there, you just tighten it down. A little quarter turn after it's tight, and that's the finished install. So now the final touch is to put the oil cap back on, but this thing's kind of ugly, and I mean it serves a purpose, right? It's going to keep the oil out, but this isn't what we want to do, so let's get rid of that. I think I got something. Hold on, let's see. Much better. That's available in the store too. So not really hard to install, but basically you screw it in, righty tighty, lefty loosey. That's pretty much it. So really simple, right? It probably didn't even need a video, but the reason there's a video is because you always need to have confidence of what you're putting on your car. You need to know what it's going to look like, how it's going to install, just to feel comfortable. That's what we like to do. We like to be comfortable with what we're offering you, the customer. So if you'll pan back down with me, you can see just how complete and finished this all is. Everything fits, everything looks right, everything is gapped evenly. It's just a good product. So that's what we like to offer. Make sure that you check out all our other videos. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you at Madness.